Yeah. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a good morning here. I'm wide awake, everything like that. But I wanted to touch on a topic. A lot of people are talking about the SEC is 0-4 now. I mean, is that surprising to me? A little bit. I thought Missouri was gonna win. I thought Florida. I thought UCF would win. I thought Houston would win. And then I for sure thought Mississippi State would win, but they came in with a giant L. Um, you know, and it was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, Missouri loses, then Auburn or Florida are probably gonna win, but it wasn't that they both lost. So let's just talk about it for a minute. The UCF or no, not UCF, the Army Missouri game that just looked like a good hard fought football game. No, they couldn't stop Army's run game. No, they couldn't stop Buchanan, Army's running back. That guy's amazing. They couldn't stop him. But it was a good hard fought game, and ended up Missouri jumped out to a lead and ended up going Army's way. So not too much to say about that. I think Army may have been the better team, anyways. And plus, when you're implementing that gimmick of a triple option, it's hard to stop. Yeah. So you have that. Florida and UCF. I don't think there's much to say about that either. UCF, yes, are the best team in Florida, but Florida, they just weren't motivated for that game. You're playing for an interim coach that you're not going to be playing with next year. Your starting quarterback, you're not going to be playing with him next year. Uh, you know, there was a lot of players last games. They tried. But Florida, they just didn't have the motivation there. You don't have any coordinators. You don't have a head coach left. Um, so I don't even know if they have an interim. I don't think they have an interim offensive coordinator either. I think all they have was their defensive coordinator was George linebacker for Georgia, 2012, all that. Robinson, so linebackers coach, and he's coaching for Florida. Bad news there, sir, but you did your service for Georgia, so shout out to you. But yeah, not too much to say about that game. Florida just wasn't motivated. Um, Now we could talk about the Auburn Houston game. If it's not crystal clear at this point, Auburn needs a quarterback, and that was the main problem in that game. I mean, are the receivers great? No, they're okay. They're not that great. They don't have any tight ends. They don't have an offensive line. Their offensive line's horrible. So besides Tank Bigsby, their offense is pretty much nothing. You know, so you you just got to get a quarterback. You have two options here. You can A, play your 4-star freshman, or B, you can get someone out the transfer portal. TJ Finley is not that good. And Auburn's offensive line didn't play well that game either. The receivers played okay, I guess, when they got the ball to them, but TJ Finley, uh, he's just not a very good quarterback. The defense played well, especially if their two starting NFL corners being out, so I'll give them that credit. But once again, quarterback play, it's important. Even in the Georgia State game, TJ Finley didn't really play that well. Auburn just came back. He peaked at when he was at LSU for the Arkansas and South Carolina game. Then when he played A&M and Alabama that year, he played horrible. He's just not a very good quarterback. He reminds me of those quarterbacks that hand off the ball all the time. When 10 years ago, in the SEC, he reminds me of those types of SEC quarterbacks. You can't just have those quarterbacks nowadays. You have a dynamic quarterback. TJ Finley's not it. Yeah, Auburn needs to get started at the transfer portal, or they can start their 4-star freshman that they got. Yeah, they got a 4-star quarterback who will be a freshman next year. That's another option as well. That's an interesting topic over the offseason, I guess, because Bo Nix is gone. I mean, how many games with Auburn would have won with good quarterback play? Penn State, but let's go begin game by game. Penn State, the momentum in that game was going to Penn State side, so I'm gonna say they would have lost that still. So I think that's one loss. Georgia, that would have still been a loss. That's two losses. Texas A&M, they would have beaten Texas A&M. Uh, I mean, goodness Christ, they lost on a sack. For all I care, did the defense even allow a touchdown? Was it 16-3, 23, something like that? I don't even know if Auburn's defense. I think they allowed one touchdown, so 20-3. But other than that, that they played lights out. They would have won with a good quarterback play. That's a loss taken away. Mississippi State, well, the defense allowed 43 points, and Bo Nix didn't really play that bad in that game anyway. So, I'm not saying probably still a loss. South Carolina, they would have definitely won that. Good quarterback play. And Alabama, yeah, they would have won that with good quarterback play. With good quarterback, they don't even need good quarterback play. They just need a quarterback that can score more than 10 points in regulation. He didn't even move the ball for Auburn. I mean, the two time Auburn scored was the two times was a real they got an interception in Alabama's own territory, and then they drove down the field and scored a touchdown. And then they got they held up Alabama down. It was at around the 10-20 yard line, and then they got a punt, caught it 40-yard line, and got a really good return, 30-yard return, something like that. Kicked the field goal. It was it was 30, 40-yard return, something like that. And then they didn't do anything. 3 and out. They kicked the field goal. Only 2 times they scored. Their defense played great that game. Auburn's defense deserved to win that game. But credit to Bryce Young. He strapped up. Took his team down for a game-winning drive. He won it in overtime. So, but Tank Bigsby, the best player for Auburn's offense by far. He ran out of bounds, and that hurt Auburn. But you got to take the circumstances. That game was one of the best Iron Bowls. I really enjoyed that overall. But yeah, and Alabama. That was their emotional win. That was a great win for them. Great game, but yeah. But that's not what this video is about. Point is, they would have won that with good quarterback play, and they would have beaten Houston with good quarterback play. 3 losses maybe taken off their record. They're a little bit better than the record, even with their bad quarterback play or Bo Nix or whatever. I mean, Bo Nix, he did improve. He did become a good quarterback this year. They just gave up after the A&M game. A&M broke Auburn. You know how Georgia broke Clemson, Georgia broke Florida. A&M broke Auburn. That's just what happened there. Except for the Alabama game, decided to mysteriously come back for the Alabama game. But other than that, no. And then we'll go on to the last game, Mississippi State, who I really thought would win last night. I don't, the air raid is great, and it can catch some teams off guard, but it can also be very predictable, especially when you got 3 weeks to prepare for it. I think that's what happened this game, for the most part. Texas Tech, they were living in Mississippi State's backfield, tackling when the Mississippi State did run the ball, getting a tackle for loss, and just putting pressure on Will Rogers. He's pressured all night, So, Texas Tech ran the ball down Mississippi State's throat, which is really odd, I thought. Mississippi State had one of the best run defenses in the nation. So, that was surprising. And then, they turned over the ball in a muff punt, which... Stupid mistake there. A lot of incomplete passes. That's just not a very good game, man. But the air raid, that's what happened. That's the risk of the air raid. It can be unpredictable, but it could also catch you off guard. Versus Alabama, it was predictable. But versus Auburn, it caught them off guard. So, you have that. Some teams, air raid is, in a lot of cases, it's either you score 1 touchdown or you're scoring 5. Just depending on the defense they play. Really, it sounds like, Texas Tech putting pressure on the quarterback. That's an interesting topic for the air raid, but the air raid is about getting the ball out quick as well. One of the characteristics for the air raid, they didn't do a very good job of that last night. Just seems like dropping people back is the best way to defend the air raid, and then rushing your forward linemen. But Texas Tech sent a lot of blitzes, so you never know. But I have to talk about those 4 teams. I went on for 5 minutes about the Auburn quarterback situation, which isn't even the main thing about this video. But let's go on to the next bowl games for the SEC. The SEC's not playing today. You got two really good bowl games. I think you have 3 overall. Clemson, Iowa State, and then you got Oregon, Oklahoma. And then you got another one that I don't think is as good. So